So what I'll do is I'll kind of set up the scene of what this world looks like 25 years after the champions have defeated the Beholder. And then I'll kind of do like a scene for each character and kind of pick up something that might have been a part of your background. And then there'll be no dice rolling. You're basically going to just tell me in character. I'm just going to be very just interactive storytelling for session 0, no dice rolling. And it's mostly to get a feel for your character. And then after we do your little character moments, if you have a character story, backstory written up, and if you'd like to read it, if you want the party to hear what your backstory is, you can choose to read it, or you can choose to be like, hey, you know what? I want to keep it on the down low for now, which is also fine. So again, this might be really, really short because like it's going to just depend on how much people want to talk about their character. So we'll just start. The world has changed. 25 years ago, a battle in the heavens fractured and forever changed the way magic intertwines with the world of New Earth. There are stories and legends as to what this event was, ranging from war among the gods, as several clerics reported that their gods had suddenly gone silent, to rumors and legends of some form of mortal being attempting to ascend to godhood and slew gods along the way attempting to ascend. The day of that event is known as the Sky of 1,000 Falling Stars, for when this event happened, several of the gods have gone silent, the skies turned black, and thousands, if not millions, of stars could be seen streaking through the heavens. In that time, the world has seen much change, with several of the gods having gone silent and magic forever changed in how it weaves itself within the world. There is a sense of panic. Even all these years later, what if it happens again? What were the falling stars? The giants in that time have waged war against the dragons, changing the face of the world as well. Now giants and dragons are commonplace. Trust among strangers, it is not something freely given any longer. It is something that must be earned. A shadow seems to linger over the spirits of the common people. Mistrust flickers in their eyes in the presence of strangers. We're going to move our camera to the continent of Vereen. This is the continent that everyone first went to. Vereen meaning new land in the ancient tongue of elves. But this land is no longer new. This is a continent that many left Aim from and sailed here to uncover all these riches. But in the 25 years since that first discovery, these lands have been plundered by treasure seekers. We now shift that camera to several months ago, north in the mountain range known as Pern's Rest, just south of an area called Frostmane. There is a village of Goliaths. One such Goliath named Nard is returning from a hunting trip when he hears the sounds of battle coming from the direction of his village. Tell us a little bit about Nard. How tall is he? What color is his hair, his eyes? What kind of clothing is he wearing? Just anything you want to do to describe what he looks like right now before this battle.
I am 7'5". I weigh 320 pounds. My hair is black and my eyes are gray. I am happy to get married soon. I will have a son. I will carry on the bloodline.
Nard, as you arrive to your village, you drop the deer, and tonight's festivities, which should have been a celebration, is now a scene of total carnage. Frost giants are attacking the village. What does this scene look like as Nard comes upon the village? What does he see? Describe for me what this carnage looks like as these frost giants are rummaging through your town.
I see red everywhere. Snow, no longer white. I'm looking. Vala, where are you? I see her running. A frost giant. You stay away from her.
So as you rush to her defense and the frost giants are all around, carnage ensues all around you. You are battling furiously to save who you can. In the end, you are doused in blood. Some of it yours, some of it the frost giants. Unclear whose blood you're even shedding at this point as you rage to defend those who are a part of your village, including Vala, who you're here to marry and one day bear children with so that your heritage can be passed down. However, as the last frost giant falls before you, your eyes kind of gaze around. All you see is death all around you. And before you can go much further, exhaustion takes you and you collapse. Your blood seeps into the snow, now stained crimson. For now, we will shift our camera once more. This time, we go to the rolling hills just past Spire's Edge, home of the Hill Dwarves, an area known as Vescandido. We turn back time several years ago, where a familiar scene plays out. John took a joke that we said and made it part of his backstory, which is great. We take a scene several years ago where it's a familiar scene plays out. We move back time several years. A hill dwarf by the name of Thraxus, who at a young age felt the pull of the cloth, answered the call of Jairus, the world forger. He is the dwarven god, the one who has supposedly made the world. Tell us what Thraxus looks like. His beard, is it braided a specific way? Is it a specific color? His eyes? What his clothing looks like?
Obviously, he's a dwarf, so he's shorter. He's about probably a couple inches shy of 5 feet, but if a nice lady dwarf asks him, he might be 5 feet tall. He's got tan skin. He loves spending time outside. Dark hair, dark beard. He's a younger dwarf, so his beard is, I'd say, about chest length, not much longer than that. It's dark. It's kind of scraggly, and he has long hair. He's just kind of approachable. He has a very friendly air about him, but he also looks like he can handle himself if something were to happen. He works with the church, particularly in the kitchens, helping make meals for the orphans. He's dressed in very plain robes, very modest.
The abbot has often told Thraxus, the Forge Father shapes peace just as much as he does steel. Your place is here at the church, not out there as a warrior. But fate, or perhaps destiny, had other plans. Thraxus, inside the Church of Jairus, which is a simple abode that's built into the hillside, as you're there with the children, speaking and teaching the words of the World Forge, the alarms begin to sound. And as you rush out, telling the children to remain inside the church, inside the safety of the stone, you see frost giants raiding your village. Similar to what I did with Nerd, how does this look? How does this scene play out?
So me being who I am, my first priority is to make sure that all the children are safe. So I make sure that they're all locked in the chapel, tell them to hide underneath the pews and not to come out until one of, somebody that they recognize comes to get them. And I head out into the courtyard and I just see, frost giants just basically laying waste to my town. They're killing unarmed people. The paladins are doing their best to put up a fight. Some of my brothers in cloth are praying, to the Forge Father, asking to be spared, to spare the village. And the frost giants are just indiscriminately killing everything that moves, basically.
And in that moment of the slaughter, the abbot hands Thraxus something in his hand. And Thraxus, in that moment, you grip that thing that is in your hand. And with perhaps guidance of Jairus himself to fight against these frost giants, you defend the children. You defend the other dwarves who are fleeing in terror from these frost giants. As you battle, weariness overtakes you. As you heave, your breath is rattling in your lungs. We return to the present, and the camera moves once again, this time moving slightly south to Spire's Edge. Spire's Edge has seen much in terms of danger, and it seems to be the epicenter of ill fortune and ill luck. At one time, the human mayor, Barris Gravestone, did his best to run Spire's Edge, but when old age finally claimed him, and that duty fell upon his daughter, the holy woman by the name of Aveline Greystone. Through the years, Aveline seemed to be a beacon of hope for Spire's Edge. The ill fortune that often found Spire's Edge seemed to decrease at long last. And many believed it was because she was a cleric, and at long last, the gods had set their eyes on Spire's Edge and began to protect it. Aveline would eventually fall in love with an elven knight by the name of Disnerium, and together they would have one daughter. He had remained in Spire's Edge for several years until duty called him away. Whatever that duty was remains unknown, for he never returned home. Their daughter, Isolde Gravestone, grew up in Spire's Edge, leading a normal life. But she had always wondered what had come of her father, someone who was a knight with magical abilities. And even her own mother shared how one time she had been abducted, and she aided a dwarven cleric, a high elf cleric, an Aasimar warlock, and a half-elf ranger defeat an evil half-ogre. She also spoke of a man well beyond his years for a human, named Tarn Bladesinger, who lived here in Spire's Edge, who claimed to have forged a very special weapon during the Night of Shadows when demons came. But he could not remember that person's name, and he swears he is cursed to live for all eternity until that person's name is remembered. What does Ysold look like? I mispronounced that name. How and when did their powers as a sorcerer manifest themselves? Was it a natural event, or did something happen to awaken these powers inside of her?
It was kind of a natural event. Isolde is in her early 20s. She's around 5'2" on a great day. She has really warm blonde hair, almost like golden hue to it. Her eyes are blue, and she has golden flecks set within them. She is fair of skin and has a slight but athletic build. As far as when my powers kind of came to be, I would say it was right around the time I turned 10 or 11. I had always been intrigued by the stories my mother told to me and the stories I remember from my father, their adventures. And so it's always been my biggest hope to go out and become adventuring. So I went on a small adventure with some friends, and we did find ourselves in a little bit of trouble. And magically, my magic appeared when I needed it the most.
So on that little adventure, as you were tracking down goblins to see what they were up to, your magic suddenly kicked off. You had been following in the steps of your mother previously, who, as a cleric, had always wondered if there was something more to you. She could tell that you possessed something unique, something that stood out, and she wasn't certain what it was, but the golden flecks in your eyes kind of always told her there was something different and special about you. You bore a very common resemblance to your father, who was a high elf, and he had blonde hair similar to yours, but his eyes were flecks of gold as well. And so when you share your story about how your power manifested itself, she realized then that you were somehow born with an innate ability to cast magic. The world has changed as of 25 years ago with how magic has infused. So she's not certain that perhaps that had some kind of impact to why you suddenly wield magic the way you do, or if there's something to your bloodline that may be yet to be revealed. From there, our camera pans west. We go past Spire's Edge, we pass Ridgecrest. We even go through Greenhaven and the Ebonwild to the lush forest of Ferndale. This is the home of the Wood Elves, the elves who remained true to their purpose and belief. The story of old is that the elves of the Ferndale are actually the sole survivors of the elves that once inhabited the lush forest that eventually became the Broken Lands. Prior to it being a desert wasteland, the story is that this was a lush forest where a elf, in his vanity to destroy orcs, tapped into magic he shouldn't have, and Nifika, in all her fury, wiped that forest out of existence. And the story is that the Ferndale is the tip of that, because the Ferndale brushes right up against the Broken Lands. Perhaps these elves of the Ferndale are some of the oldest existing elves in history. But Ferndale is not without great loss as well. 27 years ago, a green dragon had come through the Ferndale, breathing its vile breath on the elves of the Ferndale, killing many. Behind the green dragon came an army of hobgoblins who slew many of those who were still coughing and choking. The population of the Ferndale elves was decimated. That camera now pans down to Kelsera, a wood elf strolling through the woods of the Ferndale. Life has almost returned to normal for the elves here, but with their long lives and their long memories, they recall the horror that happened 27 years ago. That was only a blink of an eye due to their long lives, so they are very paranoid and very skittish. They don't know what brought that green dragon or what brought the hobgoblins. What does she look like? What is she wearing?
So Gail Sarah is rather tall. Wood elf. She's about 5'7", and she has coppery skin, deep auburn colored hair, and green eyes. She's very well camouflaged in the woods, blending in with the trees and the foliage. She wears typical wood elf clothing that's muted. They don't wear bright clothing, which she is very attracted to, but she doesn't own much of. Her build is typically slight, like most elves, but there's an underlying musculature to her that is not well seen. Her village of wood elves are mainly a quiet people who like to do farm work and keep to themselves.
And on this special day, you know that there is a special guest here in the land of the Ferndale. You rush to attend yet another speaking of Sophronia, one of the champions, as she has been called. She shares stories of how she, along with her companions, a half-elf ranger named Don Kanan, an Air Genasi princess by the name of Cora, with the aid of such people as the tiefling named Kron, Ur Genasi sisters like Moonstone and Terra, and even a drow by the name of Farron Unthal, who actually stands at her side, much to the gasps of the people of the Ferndale. For the drow have long been enemies, but Sophronia tells stories about how, without them, they would have never succeeded, and a beholder would have ascended to become a god. And had it not been for all of them, that the beholder known as Asphoratium, or better known as Ninetales, would have ascended and destroyed the gods. Upon seeing Galcera, Sophronia approaches her and says, "I have frequently seen you when I speak. We must work together to heal the land and allow our people to see beyond their bigotry." She extends her hand and says, "This staff once held charges of powerful healing abilities, but now, after the world has changed, it no longer heals, but it is still magical. Perhaps in your hands, it will find a new way to awaken once again." And that is how we meet our heroes. Their paths have not yet connected, but whether through fate or destiny, that will soon change. And that is it for Session 0. All right, so the backstory of Nerd. He was born among the high and jagged peaks of the northern mountains. His Goliath tribe thrived on resilience, believing their strength was a gift from the gods, and their struggles were woven by the goddess of fate. Their belief died the day that the frost giants arrived. Barely a young man, Nerd fought with ferocity of a cornered wolf as his village was put to the torch. During the slaughter, a savage blow tore through his left eye. Blinded by agony, he prayed for the god of war for strength and the goddess of fate for intervention. No bolt of lightning fell, no divine shield appeared. The only thing that saved Nerd was his own steel and blind, murderous rage. When the smoke cleared, Nerd was the sole survivor. He tried to bury his kin in the chilling silence of the mountain that felt suddenly empty. To Nerd, the gods didn't just fail him. They died in the ashes of his home. Driven by grief and the thirst for vengeance, Nerd became a nomad. His wanderings eventually led him to the mist-shrouded foothills of a labyrinth range, the territory of a fierce Minotaur clan. Expecting a fight, Nerd found instead wary respect. The Minotaurs, hardened by their own cycles of violence, offered him sanctuary. Among them, Nerd learned the guttural tongue of the labyrinth and honed his martial powers. He learned to compensate for his lost eye, sharpening his remaining vision into paternal focus? Probably slaughtering that word. The Minotaurs taught him the strength. Yeah, there you go. The Minotaurs taught him the strength is not divine gift, but a mortal burden. Nerd eventually bade farewell to the clan, his heart still echoing with the need for justice. He now wanders the land as a solitary barbarian, carrying his damaged eye as a permanent reminder of the day that the heavens went silent. He views the world with a grim, secular realism. While others kneel in temples, Nerd looks at the statues of the god of war and the goddess of fate and sees only cold, indifferent stone. He believes that the innocent are to be protected. It won't be by divine plan, but the weight of an axe and the courage of those willing to bleed. He seeks to become a legend, not for the glory of the gods, but to prove that a mortal man, even one-eyed and broken, can stand against the darkness, and the gods will not. So that is Nerd's origin. Thraxis, I know you have one written. Do you want to read it?
Sure, I can do that.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. I'll probably pause a couple times. I push to talk, so it's going to be a little awkward, but I'll get through it.
Okay.
Thraxis Stonevale was born in the rugged hill village of Viscondido, a tight-knit dwarven community carved in the red granite cliffs between two great valleys. Viscondido was known for two things: its humble monastery devoted to the Forge Father and producing hardy, strong dwarves. From a young age, Thraxis felt called to the cloth. He served as a kitchen monk in the Forge Father's monastery, stirring soups, tending to the forges, delivering blessings over meals, and dreaming of becoming a great spiritual guide. Thraxis gained a reputation of being great with the children, from the local orphanage. Not having any siblings of his own, he made it a focus of his to spend time with the younger children and tried to give them a positive role model to look up to. He also harbored a secret fascination with the warriors who trained in the monastery's deeper halls. Their discipline, courage, and shining warhammers stirred something restless within him. Still, the abbot insisted, "Thraxus, the Forge Father shapes peace as much as steel. Your place is here." So he stayed. One fateful night, everything changed. A warband of marauding frost giants descended from the northern ranges, drawn by the smoke of Viscandito's forges. They hit the village with brutal force. Thraxus, still a young dwarf, watched helplessly as the monastery's brothers fell around him. He tried to shield and protect the children as much as he could. He prayed for deliverance, but prayer alone was not enough on this night. As he knelt over one of his wounded elders, the abbot gripped his arm and rasped, "Thraxus, faith is strength, but strength must be forged all on its own." The abbot pressed a massive relic warhammer into his hands, its head engraved with runes of protection and courage. Then the abbot took his last breath and fell silent. That moment shattered and reforged Thraxus's destiny. He rose, tears mixing with the soot from the fires, and charged into battle. Though he had never fought before, he felt divine purpose rush through him like molten steel. He defended the fleeing villagers and drove back the giants long enough for the survivors to escape. That night, he became a symbol of hope amid ruin. The village would forever remember that night, the night that the meek servant became a holy warrior. After the attack, Viscandito struggled. Many families were displaced, the monastery was left in shambles, and the dwarven orphanage had more children than caretakers. Feeling responsible for their well-being, Thraxus sought new ways to support them. He shortly discovered that an underground gladiator circuit was taking place in a nearby township. Thraxus began competing in secret to earn gold for the monastery and its children. He earned food and supplies to care for the children of the monastery so that they could continue their education and bolster their faith. Thraxus knew that if the truth of how he was earning money got out, his brothers in cloth would not understand, so he worked very hard to keep it a secret. He fought mighty foes ranging from goblins in glittering suits, rival dwarves twice his size, and even a mysterious duelist who never removed his helmet. Thraxus mixed his clerical training with athletic showmanship, swinging his mighty hammer as it flashed in radiant brilliance. He became known as the Hammer of the Forge Father. As he fought in the pits, he realized a deeper truth. The Forge Father had not abandoned him to quiet devotion. His god had shaped him into a mighty protector, not just for Viscandito, but for anyone who could not protect themselves. Having given the children of Viscandito a better life, he yearned to do the same for children all over New Earth. Thraxus Stonevale set out into the world as a cleric, with his relic hammer in hand and his faith burning brighter than any forge. He seeks strength, not for glory, but to uplift others. He prays with one hand and in the other holds his mighty hammer, each act honoring the memory of his fallen abbot, the children that he protects, and the village that shaped who he would become, the Hammer of the Forge Father.
Nicely done.
Really nice.
So a quick pop quiz. Obviously, that's a D&D, very, very D&D influenced. Does anyone know what the inspiration of that backstory is, based off some of the things that were said in there?
Besides the Escondido reference.
The Vescandito?
Yeah.
Because it's always a joke where every time I go to John, it's like, yeah, Vista and Escondido, it's all the same place. Like, once I get past the 76, it's just one big place. And so he made Vescandito the hills of the dwarves.
The first time he told me that Anita's game was in he's like, oh, it's right up by you in Escondido. and then I later found out that it was in Vista, not Escondido, and I'm like, that's not the same place, Tom. I don't know if you know this, but they're two different towns, and there's a whole town in between them. Like, I don't know.
San Marcos is there.
I mean, they go in opposite directions, but still the same place. Thraxus, do you want to reveal what the inspiration for part of this background was?
Sure. One of my favorite movies growing up was Nacho Libre. He's the monk who works at the orphanage, and he becomes a luchador to help the church, and then it's loosely based off that because I love that movie.
All right, and we have one more final origin to go through. Gil Sarah, would you like to read it?
Gil Sarah Owlleaf, Wayfinder of the Wood Elves. So, Gil Sarah had always felt the draw to adventure from the time she was a small child. Copper-skinned with deep green eyes and dark brown, almost auburn hair, Gil Sarah was striking in appearance. Unlike her wood elf leaders, she preferred bright colors to muted. She longed to see the big cities, although the idea of big buildings seemed kind of silly to her, and mingle with other races and societies. Her hero was a now famous high elf, Sophrenia the Adventurer, who promoted harmony and understanding within the elven races as well as non-elven. Gelsera loved hearing the stories of how Sophrenia and her fellow adventurers conquered the great beholder that dared to challenge the gods. She longed to get out and see the world and adventure herself. She worshipped the goddess Nifika now that the wood elf deity Eleros had sacrificed himself for the good of all. It was this worship that led her to pursue druidcraft rather than the traditional farming and hunting roles of her village. She was fascinated by the idea that nature itself was full of magic and wonders. She did, however, avoid the darker arcane practices that seemed to go against nature itself. Tragedy struck Gelsera's village of Ferndale about 25 years ago when a great green dragon swooped through the area. It's rumored that this dragon may have been connected to Sophrenia and her followers, but no confirmation was ever received. Gelsera's curiosity about the creatures and people living beyond her quiet farming village started not long after surviving this ordeal. She harbored no animosity for whatever circumstances drove the great beasts to her village, only an unspoken drive to understand and learn more about these beasts. One particular interest that inspired Gelsera is the idea that perhaps Eleros was not truly gone, but that somehow his spirit lives on in nature, and, if the right plea was sent to the gods, he could rise again, not unlike the phoenix of old. It is said that Sophrenia the Adventurer once wielded a ring with the spirit of a phoenix contained within. Despite this belief, it had to be noted that the forest felt emptier without Eleros, and the animals of the forest seemed to grieve the loss as keenly as the wood elves. She was determined to explore the reaches of New Earth and the plains beyond to find answers on how the balance of the forest could be restored and a new deity could rise. The grumblings of new gods and goddesses from other tribes not attuned to the forest worried her. She was determined to seek out the goddess Florisana herself, if necessary, to ensure that the god of nature would be restored being worthy of the forest. Despite all this ambition, Gelsera was a calm being, working to develop her connection to nature through druidcraft. As a magic initiate, she had a lot to learn. Many of her days were spent in quiet contemplation of the forest, its many animal citizens, as well as powerful trees and plants that make up its structure. There was magic to be seen in all. In particular, she felt a deep affinity with the animals of the forest and was developing her abilities to communicate and develop relationships with them. While understanding the circle of life included death and sacrifice, she avoided eating meat unless exceptionally desperate and preferred instead to stick to plant life and berries offered freely by the forest. She was sure to thank the forest and any animals for the sacrifices that sustained her. So it is that Gelsera found herself packing to leave her village and head off to find adventure. She planned on stopping by the inn at Ridgecrest to seek out like-minded adventurers that were looking to explore and experience the world. Her elders frowned at her high-strung, impulsive plans, but she could no longer deny that something was pushing her to do this. Perhaps even Nifika had placed this calling on her heart. She would come to find out.
That is perfect. So what I want to do going forward is I'd love to continue like heavy role play, not always having to talk in character, but doing the majority in character. So, you could always say something like, oh, I swing my axe. Or you could, if you wanted to, take a moment to describe what that looks like. And sometimes the roles will hate you. So you may describe something wonderful and then roll it, and then it does not come out great. So what? But that's my plan. I would like to definitely make it very story, everyone like having cool character stuff, and kind of make it like how Session 0 was, but obviously we would have dice rolls later. But this was mostly about everyone getting a feel for everyone else's character and kind of like the theme I want to go for. It's a darker world. Magic has changed. There's mistrust usually among strangers. If you go to a tavern, it's not usually like cheerful. You go in, people will stare at you if you're a newcomer there. There's a sense of something dreadful lingering over the world that no one can place their finger on. There's going to be one thing that I'm going to introduce later. So there needs to be a story reason for this. Essentially, each of you can pick someone where if you had to choose between the three people standing in front of you, and you can only grab one person before they fell off of a cliff that you would choose to save, that person, if you have a story connection with them, what I'm going to allow is if you want to give someone the help action, you can roll. If it's you, like for example, if Nerd and Gelsera are friends. So, Nard is Galcera's friend, and Galcera's doing something, and Nard is proficient in it. He can say, "Hey, I want to help her," and Galcera would also get a D4, kind of like a bless roll. But in order to do it, you can't just say, "Hey, can I give her the help action?" You have to describe how you're helping them. If you say, "Hey, can I give her the help action?" then no benefit is done. You have to literally say, "Oh, I'm going to help her by looking at the ground and seeing if I can notice any other tracks that she's trying to find and help her kind of pinpoint what it is." So it's basically going to be advantage with also a bless on top of it. But the thing is, you can only have one person that you are going to basically always kind of support. And it doesn't have to go back to the person. So for example, if Naird chooses Galcera might be like, "Oh, cool, but I am actually going to be friends with Thraxus. Like, he's the one I would save if it came down to the three of you." So anytime Galcera helped Thraxus with something that they're both proficient in, he'd get advantage at plus a D4. But she would have to describe how she's helping him. You don't already have to have your one person that you would save if they're falling off a cliff already established. That could come later. That could come 10, 15, 20 sessions later, where something happens between you and another character where you're like, "Hey, that was really cool of you that you did this. I just want you to know that should the time ever come, I will always try to help you." And then that's when maybe you build that rapport. So maybe you never get rapport with anyone. Maybe you go all the way to level 20 and no one is ever close to you, or you're never close to anyone. That is also fine. So
That would make more sense. Like, it would be kind of difficult, them all coming from different regions and different places, to have an immediate affinity.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It has to have a story reason. And I'm going to make it so you can change your rapport every time you level. But you can't change it before then. One of the rules I'm going to borrow is from the Lord of the Rings 5e, well, it's also in the One Ring, where there's going to be a journey thing. So normally when we play D&D, I just say, okay, it's 3 nights to get here, whatever. Now we're going to actually do a thing where whoever is the designated guide will roll it. Yeah, I put it in the 2024 rules. So what'll happen is we'll have someone who is a guide who's going to be essentially, they're in charge of the decision concerning the route, when to take a rest, make sure you have supplies. They roll a survival roll. And then there's a chart that you have to roll. Higher the better, obviously. And when you do it, that'll determine next, after you succeed or fail on that thing, that would tell us if something went wrong or if you found a shortcut. And then you would roll a 1d6, and then 1, 2 would be hunter, 3, 4 is lookout, 5, 6 is the scout. And each one of you is going to be designated a role. Since there's 4 people, it's actually perfect. One person's a guide, one person's a hunter, one person's a lookout, one person's a scout. The guide uses survival, the hunter uses nature, the lookout uses perception, and the scout uses stealth. And you'll roll, and then that will determine who the event falls on. So you might roll your travel skill. I'll tell you if that succeeds or fails, depending on where you are traveling. So like if you're traveling on a road, it's like a DC 10 for a survival check. If you're traveling in the mountains, it might be a DC 15 for a survival check, because it'd be harder roads and stuff like that. That's going to then, you roll a d6 and then determine who that falls on. So it might be the hunter. So there's a chart that says, hey, if it lands on the hunter, this is the event that happens, like a mishap. So I might say, oh, whoever the hunter is, I'll say, hey, Mikey, you're the hunter. Roll me a nature check, pass or fail. Say he passes. I'll say, okay, the event was a mishap, so you still managed to find food, but something goes wrong. Tell me what went wrong during your hunt. And if you don't have an idea, I'll just make something up. But that'll be it. We're going to do like a little bit of the D&D traveling rule. Or I'm sorry, the Lord of the Rings traveling rule, and see how it works. If it's cool, if people like it, we keep it. If people don't like it, we just go back to, yeah, okay, it took you 3 days. Yeah, and I was also thinking of borrowing a rule that they do is that unless you rest in a town or somewhere that is deemed a safe haven, you do not get the benefits of a long rest.
Sad.
So you need to expend hit dice if you wanted to, or burn spells.
Sad day for us.
Yeah, I actually really, really, really like that rule, that you can't just regain full health by sleeping in a tent. So we'll see how that goes and see if that's too much or if it's not. But I really like the idea of not getting a benefit of a long rest unless you do it in a town or somewhere that is considered a safe haven. Like if you found like an abandoned farmhouse where there's nothing really around, that'd be considered a safe haven. But if you found an abandoned farmhouse where there are wolves all around, that would not be a safe haven.
Unless you kill all the wolves, right?
Oh, yes, and then you could hunt all the wolves and then have pelts and meat. But anyway, that's it. That's session 0. The end this time, I swear.